Biggest achievement obviously is my WAKO World title, and then numerous WAKO World Cup winner, British champion. So I don't actually know how many times. I think it's got to be over 10 times. British champion over 10 times. It was 6 weeks before the Worlds.
Yeah.
And at that tournament, I broke my back. I was going up this guy, and he looked insane. But his spinning kick was low, and his heel went right into like my coccyx.
Yeah.
And I came back in, and I tried to throw a jab. And as I tried to throw a jab, it was like someone stabbed me in the back. I couldn't move properly. I couldn't fight the next day. I couldn't sleep. Like any time I just moved, bam. But that's where mentality is the most important thing, because I kept telling myself, when you flip the script like that, and you're like, what if I can do it though? And I can say I've won with a broken back. That's that story I've got to tell for forever.
On this episode of the Elite Podcast, I speak to Fin Heesom, multiple WAKO British, European and World Champion. Fin, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, mate. Good to see you again.
Yeah, last week, not too long now, yeah.
We did a podcast exchange, didn't we?
Exactly, yeah, me on you and you on me.
Yeah. That was really good fun, actually, last week. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. It was good.
Yeah, really good fun. And it's great to have you here today. Yeah, I've been telling some of the lads who I've got down, because you're kind of a big deal in the martial arts world, aren't you? Just want to quickly outline exactly what you've won, because I don't even know to the extent of all the stuff you've won.
So I say the biggest achievement obviously is my WAKO World title.
Yeah.
Senior WAKO World title that I won in 2023 actually. And then, numerous WAKO World Cup winner, British champion. So I don't actually know how many times. I think it's got to be over 10 times, British champion, over 10 times WAKO World Cup winner. So yeah.
Well done, mate. Congratulations. That's really, really good.
Much.
So you're specialist in points, or you're more light now?
So I've always preferred continuous. Yeah, like that's what we specialised in. We only really trained points like twice a week. So when we was winning all these points titles.
Just accident?
Not accident, but all the skills we was doing is transferable. But for me, continuous is my favourite, has always been my favourite.
Yeah. Why?
I feel like the creativity aspect is a lot higher in continuous. Like in points, you're going to make one mistake and it stops. You got to reset. You got to start again. Whereas in continuous, I can be a bit more fearless. I can try more flamboyant things. I can express myself more, and that risk isn't punished as quickly.
Yeah.
So like you can put shots together. You can put things. You can take more risk. Whereas points, that risk is so limited, because you can do the most extravagant move. All someone has to do is back fist you, and you've got to reset.
That's true.
Something about putting boxing gloves on and that bit more,
that
that bit more physical
Nothing
contact.
Light about light contact, though, is there?
Exactly.
You call it that? Why? Should be called firm contact.
For so long, I was like, this contact rule needs to go, because you've got people who can't take a punch, and you're getting punished for it because they can play on the rule and be a bit weak and act like the punch. Whereas like you should be warned for technique. So like if the technique's bad, if you're just swinging haymakers, then you should be minus the point, or you should be warned. But the contact rule should just be completely nullified, because you're actually taking away from the sport. You know what I mean? Like it's a contact sport.
Of course.
Like, and if you're swinging, that's bad technique, then you should be warned for it. But you're like limiting fighters who sometimes it's not even that you're hitting hard, it's you're hitting correct.
Yeah.
And people haven't been hit correct before, and that's it, they don't know what to do.
Well, any fighter, I think, that's kind of trying to capitalise on the rules for contact isn't a fighter in my eyes at all. That they're just an athlete. They're not a fighter. The whole point of combat, I would never call a medic. I've never ever called a medic, and I've been in some states.
Old school days. When it was even more full contact. Yeah,
but that's a form of dominance to me. Like if you're getting a medic in, you're beating me
100%
in combat. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if you hurt me. I ain't showing you've hurt me. I'm not going to get the ref in so I can, because my nose is sore. You've knocked me silly for a little bit. I'm not even showing you. I've been shaking to the boots.
If someone's taking medic time, I'm like, I've got a mental advantage now. I know I've got you. Yeah. Like
you can still lose as well sometimes though, with people that are playing that rule so finely. Because they play to win. They don't play to win the fight. They play to win the game. Almost it is to them, isn't it?
100%.
Like the European countries. Which ones would you say worse for that? Would you rather not say?
Well, I would say.
Yeah, go on,
I think it's gotten better. I think it's now more like individuals. Like obviously, I had a really bad experience with it at the World Championships, where I actually got disqualified. Really? So it's like,
not because of what you did excessively, but because of their over dramatic response to it.
So It was, I was winning easily, like to the point, one of the GB coaches, Lee Randall, great friend, he was like, just go express yourself now, just go literally just go have fun. Yeah. Literally his words, go have fun. Like that's how much, we was winning. And I threw a back kick and hit him clean. There was video and photo footage because obviously everyone went mental when I got disqualified. Hit him clean. Way. Yeah, in a bad way. And it hit him clean and he went down, pretended he got hit low. His dad who was his coach from Ireland went, stay down. And the refs were a bit of a fault for the refs too. They didn't actually know what to do in that situation. So what should have happened, which I got told afterwards, was he should have got disqualified and you should have got through to the next round. But they didn't. And they disqualified me for it. And so like literally dream shattered. Like I'd never won a senior world title before.
Is that your first one?
That was my first one. Yeah, so that was my dream from 12 years old as a kid. As soon as I come into sport, was getting a senior WAKO World title. I was literally coming into it, and I knew I could do it. And that's it. They said disqualified out, and so and I knew I'd hit him clean. I actually had a broken back as well, so I couldn't kick hard anyway. And so I just sat in protest on the chair. Did you? As I refused to move. I was like, this is unreal. As I refused to move. And eventually they came over and I think one of the coaches came over and said, you're going to make it worse if you stay on.
How can it be worse if you're disqualified?
And so I came off and we sat by the podium for a good 6 hours. I was every emotion under the sun going off. I got to give credit to the GB team because they were fighting the corner heavily. Like all of them, every single one of them was getting rules out, was disputing it, and
it's difficult once it's been done. Though,
once it's been done, And I was saying this to people. It's literally like a Champions League final getting overturned. Yeah. Like it's just unheard of.
It's not going to happen. You need to get it before the decision's made.
In my history, I've never seen it. I've never heard of a decision being overturned, but was getting word, and eventually it actually did.
Oh, did?
Yeah, it actually did. Oh,
so because the fight hadn't actually officially ended then, did you just stay on the area?
No, officially ended. We got kicked off. They'd carry on fighting.
Really?
He went off. People saw him laughing backstage.
So what type of fighter are you? You're going to do that and be happy. So you see people cheer when the other one gets disqualified as well.
It was crazy. And so, I think Thomas Barada was actually the guy who got it. Was officially the one who got it, helped cross the line, I guess.
Oh, was he? Did he see it as well?
Because he saw it. I mean, it was everywhere. It was on social, everywhere. Like I couldn't physically respond to enough people, like in person and on message, disputing it. But in the rules, hopefully that's changing now. But in the rules, you can't take video footage. They don't accept it. So everyone's sending video because it's live streamed. Yeah, and I've got it on video. Everyone's sending video footage like it's clean. It's clean. It's not a low blow. But they can't take it. Billy Bryce came. He's got the WAKO rules. Like they don't take video footage to dispute it. I have no idea. It's like the most accurate footage you could get. Yeah. But yeah, eventually it got to Roy. I believe it got all the way to the top, brilliant. From what I know.
Roy sorted
and it was about 11 at night at this point. So I've been waiting all day in my sweaty kit, just waiting. Because I'm like,
tense day, wasn't it?
And so again, what I hear straight away was what should have happened. So he's disqualified and I'm through. That's what should have happened. That's what I got told. Get back, had like a really late dinner, obviously at the hotel. We're like just trying to now, chill and get ready for the next day because it's semi-finals the next day. Literally, as soon as I put my head on the pillow, like 12 at night, Dwayne, the GB coach, rings me and he's like, change of plans, rematch tomorrow morning.
Oh, so that's what they did then? She just fought him again?
So they said rematch tomorrow morning. It's going to be the first fight on before any fights. All the top officials are going to be there. Everyone's going to be there ready to watch it. So I was like, to be fair, I said I'd fight him one-handed. I was asking.
So you're confident you just beat him anyway.
I was asking for the rematch. I was like, can we just fight? I was like, I'd fight him with just one arm. If I just give me a rematch. And so, we got the rematch tomorrow morning. The whole GB team came, like screaming their heads off. And, I really had to work on, being emotionless because naturally you want to I wanted to talk shit. I wanted to do everything. So I was like,
You're a professional though, aren't you? You've got a reputation for being like a professional.
I was like, emotion's not going to help me here. No. I was like, I need to I just need to get the job done. Because then I still had the semi-final later that day after I won. So I was like,
you actually dust yourself off and get back to work.
Yeah,
then
I had Elijah with me, I had Adrian with me,
Yeah.
and they were a real big help in just diffusing everything and just being there, just to like talk things through with, because for that time it was a wave of emotions. You know, like I was already going into it like I knew I could win. Then I'd come up short so many times in a world's final or a senior world. So I was like, this is the time, like this is my year.
Yeah.
And then shattered. I remember being like, Nev giving me one of his massive hugs, and I was like, they've just stolen my dream from me.
2
like,
years as well. It is. You have to wait.
2 years. And I remember being on the podium, just sitting there waiting, like, I've got to wait 2 years. And so I was like, especially the way it happened too, like, mate, I was every emotion. So then you had to recalibrate.
So what happened then? So you got into the fight with him,
easily won.
And then you got to the semis that day.
And then I did the semis. I won the semis, and then at that point, obviously you got the final still, but I just wanted that day done.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to get that day finished. And luckily I had a break, so the next day I didn't fight. So I got to sort of again just reset mentally a bit further, because the emotions you have to navigate through already that week mentally so draining. I say this to like all young fighters and stuff, and people who want to come on the GB team. I'm like, that week is not like, a weekend away. It's a week of mentally, it takes it out of you, because you're not really switching off. So
then the finals.
Then I won the final.
That's the one that you won on.
So
wow,
this was in Portugal. Yeah,
amazing.
In Portugal. So that whole story, I think, you look back on it and it's the story that makes it special. So
of course it is. How important is mindset just for others, do you think, when it comes to that top level?
The biggest difference. The biggest difference. Like that year was, that was essentially I went into it. I didn't. You never really go into a championships 100%, because if you're not carrying some sort of niggle or injury, you're not really trained. Yeah. You've probably not trained hard enough. But in Bristol, which Bristol Opens, it was 6 weeks before the Worlds.
Yeah.
And that was my last tournament, just check it off the box. And at that tournament, I broke my back.
When you say you broke your back,
I fractured my spine.
Did you?
So people are bored of it. People are probably bored of hearing spine now, but literally
what happens when you fracture your spine?
I was fighting 74, it's my usual division, and I was going up this guy, and he looked insane. Like, and I threw a spinning kick, and he threw a spinning kick at the same time, but his spinning kick was low, and his heel went right into like my coccyx.
Yeah.
And so usually, we're used to getting smacked around. I didn't think anything to it. So I just took like a second, and I came back in and I tried to throw a jab. And as I tried to throw a jab, it was like someone stabbed me in the back. And I was like, that's not normal. I was like, that shouldn't be like that. And I couldn't move properly. I could like pure adrenaline just lift my leg up, but I couldn't throw any punches. Every time I just went to throw a jab, it was literally like someone was stabbing me right in my spine. And so I couldn't fight the next day. I couldn't sleep. Like any time I just moved, bam, but like back and gone. I couldn't sit down. So like I had to, for my car, because we're self-funded, I couldn't afford not to go to work. So I had to get a pillow and put it in underneath my seat in the car. So like I was just hanging off the edge. I had to sleep on my front, but every time I would wake up, anytime you just move an inch, bam, I've waked up, flares straight up against. Like again, literally every time, it's like I've never experienced pain like it. It's crazy. I couldn't train at all. I could slowly walk. That was like as much as I could do. And I didn't want to go. Well, I didn't go to the hospital, and I didn't want to go to the doctor because they need to pass your medical. And so I was like, I'm not fucking doing that because I've got a world championship.
Yeah.
You're gonna say I can't go.
So yeah, you definitely would have got signed off.
So quote unquote, potentially, I blagged the medical.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just pray that this heals, because if it was a bruise, it would have healed in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, it got to 4 weeks, and I was like, I still can't train. And so
you weren't able to train at all.
I did no training up to the run up. I went to the gym and I just laid on a yoga ball for 6 weeks. Just laid,
trying to rehab it a little bit.
Just laid on a yoga ball. But because it's not a muscle, it's like I can't. There's no rehab I can do. I literally just have to wait.
What would you? How'd you fix that? Just like you can't put yourself in a cast. Did you have anti-inflammatories?
I literally I use anti-inflammatories. Yeah. I iced it when I could, and then I just tried to lay like horizontal so that I wasn't flaring it up or putting any more inflammation around the muscles. And then I just prayed I got one session in where I did some boxing, like literally maybe the day before we flew.
Yeah.
And then I was able enough to move and punch. And then I was like, when I'm out there, I don't care what happens to it, obviously. Yeah. So I just had to get through to the championships, and then that was it. Like, adrenaline can take me from there. Like, I don't really care up until that point. So, but you know, all those challenges, that's what makes and I've visualized it for months winning and like what would happen. And that story just makes it all the more special.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect example of what it takes to win though, isn't it? Some people, you get so many near misses, don't you, in close calls, and you fail multiple times, and you expend everything and you give everything, and most people think that's it, and they've exhausted everything, but it's just past that point where success is, isn't it?
100%.
It's just past there, and there's something called Murphy's Laws. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Everything's harder than you think it is. Yeah. Everything takes longer than you think it is. And I can't remember what the third one is now. Someone put it in the comments probably afterwards, but that's just a perfect example. Everything just takes longer. It's harder. Oh yeah. The last one is anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
So and that is a perfect example of when this happens, people think, oh, it's God's telling me, oh, this isn't for me. This is fate. Yeah. You know, I'm seeing the signs. No, this is part of the process. Everything breaks down. Everything goes wrong, and you have to kind of troubleshoot it and overcome it. And that's 100%. Just a perfect example.
And it's like, I kept telling myself, because obviously you go through doubts, you're like, I can't even fucking sit down. How am I going to win a world title? But then, you know, you flip the perspective, and this is where mentality is the number one. Because I was never the best athletically anyway. But that's where mentality is the most important thing, because I kept telling myself, what happens if I win? And this is the story I've got to tell.
Yeah.
Like, I win. And I had that Mike Tyson audio saved, where it's like, I broke my back, and I kept saying to myself, I'm going to post this as soon as I win.
Yeah.
And I did. And I was like, but mentally, I was like, what happened? Just flip the perspective. What happens if I actually can do this? And I can say I've won with a broken back. Like, who can say that?
You deserve it.
And then who can say they've got disqualified and then still come back? Do you know what I mean? Like,
come back from the dead.
The what? Yeah, literally, like that what if, that like, when you flip the script like that and you're like, what if I can do it though? That's that story I've got to tell for forever. And again, it was funny as well, because like you said, what everything that can go wrong will go wrong. That was my best year prep to date. Like, I spent everything I earned, I spent to getting out to tournaments, and every tournament I could, every international I could, and I'd won every international. I had the best prep to date, physically, athletically. Like, I felt great. And then, you know, the last tournament before you fly, your back goes. I was like, you know what I mean? It's funny. Literally everything that could have gone wrong at that very moment. So but it all just plays onto that. I think, you know, perspective's a massive thing. Mentally, if you're able to re-engineer something, it's huge.
And once you've experienced that and you've overcome adversity in multiple areas, multiple times, and you succeed anyway, then when you apply, when this happens again the next time, you're like, okay, this is part of the journey. This is what happens. Let's go. Fucking roll your sleeves up.
Exactly.
Bring it on.
Literally,
do you know what I mean?
It's like that saying, it's like, it doesn't get easier, you just get tougher.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. That's your skin gets tougher. You're able to react and adjust without, it's like, you know, the first time you get punched in the face, it's a shock to the system.
It's horrid, isn't it? It's the worst thing ever.
How am I ever going to get you? And then literally a week later, you're like, I'm used to it. Like, you know what I mean? It's you don't even register it. So it's the exact same thing.
Everything normalizes, doesn't it? Yeah. So with winning as well, you know, some people are obsessed with winning, and winning's what makes them happy, but you've won a lot with a lot of things. Do you find that winning makes you happy still, or does it just make you normal now? Like, and you expect to do it?
It's both.
Yeah.
I think it's both. Like, I say this to a lot of young fighters, you have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Because I went through years, especially as I was transitioning to adults, where like I'd win, but I couldn't care. Like, I was not bothered.
You expected to win. Did you expect to win?
I expect to win, but I just didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
And so
if you lose, it's terrible, but if you win, it's just normal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So like, it was more just, oh, good, I've not lost.
Yeah.
Was like that was
a lot of fighters say this.
Yeah, oh, good, I've not lost. Like, it was more relief.
Yeah.
And although, you know, that's somewhat healthy, because you don't get complacent.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not healthy, because you need to enjoy the journey to be sustainable in it and have longevity. You need to. So a lot of fighters, like, I try and tell them, enjoy it. You fight so often, you fight in so many tournaments on the calendar year. Enjoy the process, because you need to enjoy the wins.
Yeah.
Like, because I was, that's where I wasn't really enjoying the sport. I was like winning World Cups. I was winning, you know, big events in our sport. And I was like, I don't really care. Like, I'm just glad I'm not lost.
Yeah.
So like, it is a fine balance. You need to hate losing. You need to despise losing, but at the same time, you need to really enjoy the winning.
And appreciate it as well.
Exactly.
And show yourself some gratitude as well, because what you do in order to win isn't normal, is it?
No.
You know, you have to, a lot of sacrifices come with that, doesn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah. So I think that winning mindset, like it's getting the balance right of I'm enjoying the process, but at the same time, I'm not happy with losing.
Yeah.
And so when you find that when eventually, like as I got older and I got a bit more mature, I managed to navigate and understand that process a bit better of being able to enjoy and be in the moment a bit more and not take it so seriously. But it's a journey. Like I say, it's a journey. And for younger fighters, I think they just need to try and enjoy it for as long as possible.
Yeah, there's a problem, isn't there, with the transition from, you get some really good kid fighters, but moving that into the adults, they seem to get lost in transition, don't they? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because it's like going out drinking, girls or boys or whatever it is? You know,
like obviously I was lucky because I had amazing parents, and then obviously I had my coach as well. So
do you want to talk about your coach?
Yeah, so Vinder was my coach. I never did any kickboxing before starting at Tech, which is where he was. And so Vinder was my very first coach, has been for my whole kickboxing career.
And he's outstanding, by the way, as well.
Yeah,
the proof is in the pudding. The amount of outstanding top-level fighters he's produced. And his Instagram's brilliant, isn't it? So good. You've really racked up some followers on that.
I know, yeah, when we talk about social media.
Did you that help with that, putting that together, you and all the team? Do you all kind of take ownership on it?
Really, yeah. I mean, mainly it was Vinder, myself, and a couple of other team members as well. But, you know, it was over lockdown and a Vinder.
It's like playing about, was it?
During lockdown, Vinder went, let's just go. There was nothing else to do. So let's just go crazy with this. So it was like going to parks and filming just random exercise, just things for everyone to do.
Brilliant.
It wasn't, you know, sit indoors all day. But yeah, you know, Vinder was my coach, and when it comes to kickboxing, there's no one better. I'm a massive advocate and believer of that. There's no one better. So he would talk to me about that period's going to come, that drop-off's there. It's like when we were kids, he'd warn us about that. So
is he good on the physicality side of stuff with the drills, the training? Is he intelligent? Is he good with kind of mindset and everything as well?
Yeah,
when it comes interested to know. I'd like to get him on, actually. It'd be great to speak with him. It'd be really good to speak with him.
Yeah, when it comes to the physical, it was always mentality first.
Yeah,
so we was raised.
That is the most important thing, though, isn't it? Everything else follows.
When I came, I had, I don't know how many times I got to tell people, I had zero physical attributes. You know, like some people come in, they're just explosive. They can just blitz off the mark. Some people, you know, they're strong. Like when I say I had zero physical, mate, I was like a fish. Yeah, I had no physical attributes.
Do you know who else was who's really good now that was also quite a little bit like that when he was younger? Elijah.
I bet, yeah. I've seen some old footage, like raw. Yeah.
He's always... Be as good as you can. Be the best at the things that don't require skill.
Yeah.
Be the very best. Being on time. Giving 100%. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Being urgent. Having passion. Being respectful. Be loyal. Yeah. Do all these things, and you'll grow and you'll accumulate the skills.
That was similar to me as a kid. Like same to Elijah. I had great parents. Yeah. Especially my mum was literally, there was no pulling back. It was you go.
Yeah.
Like, and
you can't do it without parents, can you?
No. And I was just insanely competitive. That was the only thing I can say naturally.
Yeah. That's good though.
I hated to lose.
Yeah.
And I was just insanely competitive. So they were the only assets I can say I had. Everything else, I remember obviously when I was young, we're doing seminars. I didn't go. I stayed behind because I didn't look good enough. Because physically, like I was so raw and novice, like I didn't look good enough to go to seminars. I always remember that as a kid, like being a bit gutted. I was like, I want to go to seminars. Yeah. Eventually it's worked out. But when I was a kid, because I had no physical talent. So that all had to be trained, but mentality first. You know, there'll be so many, I think it's Khabib who said this, there'll be so many people who didn't say it like this, from Russia.
Paraphrasing.
Yeah, exactly. But when it's actually more of a gift to not be talented, because when that talent reaches a certain threshold, they'll drop off. Yeah. They'll quit because they've not been hit with adversity.
Exactly. Good's the enemy of great, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. They've had everything work for them. So when something doesn't work for them, that's it. They'll quit at the first sign. Whereas if you've had to scrape, claw, if you've had to work your way up,
yeah,
you're used to it.
Yeah, I've seen a few fighters like that,
and that's Elijah as well.
Yeah.
That's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like
you've got to. You know, you get some that just don't lose and they just start off winning, and they're really talented. And I had a couple of students that are like that, and then they get a loss. Yeah. They're nearly done. They're finished.
Yeah.
I've
said this so many times. Like again, younger fighters said, there's been so many guys, not just in our club, but in across the sport I've seen, who are so much more talented than me, but they've quit.
Yeah,
like they've quit, and you don't hear about them, and that's it. Like all because they've just left at the first sign of things getting tough, or they didn't have that. They had the talent, but mentally they didn't have that perseverance to be able to stick with it and keep going when things were. Because you're probably gonna not, when you get to a higher level, you're probably gonna not enjoy it more than you enjoy it.
Yeah,
like that's just the reality, I think. Anyway, like when you've done it over 10 years, there'll be more days where you don't want to do it,
definitely,
than you want to do it. And like when you first get into it, you're like, oh, is that normal? Is that a normal feeling? Eventually you realize it is, and you're meant to feel that way.
That's discipline cooked in then, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's what you need. You don't think, kids don't like brushing their teeth, do they? And when they're little, you're testing the toothbrush. You haven't brushed your teeth, have you? When you're older, you do it. You don't think about, I don't like brushing my teeth.
I've got to.
So it's the same with your training, your diet, and whatever you do. I just hang my brain up for that. I just put my trainers on, get out the door, do the run, whatever it is.
That's it.
Don't think about it. Because you start thinking, you're going to talk yourself out of it quite quickly.
If you allow yourself that breathing room, you never get the alarm clock in the morning.
No,
but that's how we was raised. I started kickboxing at 12, so fairly late actually, compared to a lot of the successful guys. But we was grown up on mentality first, and when you're growing up on mentality first, everything else really is just a matter of time. So like I lost a lot at like older cadet. I didn't actually do younger cadet again because I didn't.
Yeah.
So I lost a lot of older cadet because of that. Like we said, that period where the talented kids are just
the ones that have been doing it since they were like 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you're competing against these guys.
Yeah, and Vinda would always say, just wait till you get to junior, wait till you get to an adult, and half of them aren't here. And if they are, I would breeze through them. That catch up level came. So it's just trusting the process and knowing that for the bigger picture, all you've got to do is stay consistent.
The bigger picture and thinking into the future, isn't it? Rather than instant gratification.
100%.
And you see it. I'm not current, so I'm not on the circuit now, but I was on there for a very long time, a good 25 years. And you'd see people and coaches, and they would enter their fighters into like the lower grade fights and stuff like that. And that is like totally against our culture. So what we used to fight up, you'd fight in the weight section above, or the height above, or the grade above. Okay, you do your own, and you do one up. So you just to get beaten up and to get flipping, and just to bring you up, because that's the one where you're going to develop. So what are your thoughts on when you see people putting their students, and you do see it still, don't you? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Putting them down.
To be fair, similar to you, I think it is more regimented now.
Is it?
So I think
there's
people
less chances to do that. Good.
I've not seen it for a long time.
It was prevalent. It was all over the shop.
I remember seeing it. Years
even
back.
Good schools with good fighters would do it.
I remember seeing it years back, and now I think it's definitely more called out.
Yeah, good.
And so I'm heavily against it. Like one, you're not going to you're going to get exposed. Like when you need to make that, you're going to get exposed, and it's just a false sense of security.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, I think you're damaging the fight. You're not just damaging the people he's kicking the shit out of in the section because he's wet. They're way better.
Both ways.
That person there, you're building a weak person, a weak fighter. That's a coward.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to do. A fundamental lesson. You need to do the opposite. Be courageous. There's no courage without fear.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no novelty in winning a section that you're way too advanced for.
And they know. They go away and they know. You can't cheat yourself.
No, 100%. You know.
And that'll affect your self-esteem. When you're in the finals against a real flipping killer, you ain't going to be able to perform now. You're going to fall to pieces on your legs hurting.
Exactly. And so we was the same. We grew up the same of, you do, first of all, training, I'm sparring. Well, as a kid, it's more play sparring, but there was a point, we'd always know it was coming where we'd have to, like when we was kids, like, 12, 13, we'd spar the adults. Yeah. And they'd obviously be controlled, but then there'd be a certain point where they're going to push us now. They're going to test us. And so we knew that point was coming, but it absolutely hardens you. It absolutely hardens you both on the mat and then into the real world as well. And same in the sport, I've now gone over to boxing, and they're like, can't comprehend how many like fights I've had.
No, because I'm mad, isn't it?
You're doing so many sections. Like when I was my age at 16, I was doing, juniors. Then 16, that means you're going to the adults.
Yeah.
So like my first Irish Open at 16, went to do the senior light contact world champion, like second fight. And so there's no shallow end.
No, there's a lot of big kind of potential mismatches, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you fight in the open weight. I used to get, I had 14 and 15-year-old killers. They were killers, and they were absolutely hardened through hard physical training.
Yep.
And we didn't just do points. We trained points, but we did a lot of light and loads of and full. To the degree that it would make them more confident in their abilities, and then points was a game. They'd just play.
That's exactly how I thought of it.
Rather than being too tense. And so, and that'd be through. I mean, the way I trained them, when I was doing it, I hadn't long been at the parachute regiment as a physical training instructor, and I was training them like mini paratroopers. Straight into it, borderline child abuse. I am not joking. Like what Elijah and that, what I did with those guys, I'm not gassing myself up for anything because I had the parents' permission for everything. But you wouldn't really want to get all that stuff on Facebook or social media that we were doing.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and I was first getting into it, I was first into like Blue Blood and that's our fight team. I was so nervous. There'd be days where I'd be like, fucking, I know what's coming today. Like, I know what's coming. I hated it. Because you knew that beasting was coming.
Yeah.
But it gives you a reality check. And, it's like, train hard so then when the fight's there, it's easy.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, you'd rather it be that way around every day of the week. And you get onto the mats and you're like, oh, is that it?
Exactly.
And it's the same, if we had any like, girls, like we didn't really, if it was like one of our girls who we used to have, Holly, she'd spar, she'd be with me, Will, because there was no other women on the team.
Yeah.
She's like, used to, I've got to fight Finn, I've got to fight Will. Get onto the competition, fighting regular girls.
Just wipe the floor with everyone.
Oh, is that it? Yeah, literally like, I'm used to fighting.
High, everything else is
I'm usually training with these grown-ass men, and now I'm actually fighting someone my own age. And that was the same me as a kid. I'm to fight all these grown-ass men.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, remember I said earlier, be good at the things that don't require skill.
Yeah.
Be brave.
Yeah.
Just fight
Literally,
better people. Be fitter. It doesn't take any skill to be fit.
No.
Like you just takes effort.
Yep.
So if you can get yourself really fit, and this is what I did a lot, I was really fit, especially for a heavyweight. Then I would raise the I'd fight at a high tempo, and I'd bring them into the trenches with you, make them fight at my level, and then they're not going to be able to kind of keep up. Then hopefully that would be the plan, wouldn't it? You drag them into
the mentality there as well. Like, I remember, like, that's what Russia would do really well. For example, like they'd just be really fit, and so you knew you'd be in for a fight. And if you're not there, like if you're not with it cardiovascularly fit, like you're getting tested. So,
and that's a lonely place to be, in it.
It's the worst place to be. It's the worst.
When someone's a bit more skillful than you and they can hit hard, and you've got loads of time left in that fight, it's a very lonely place to be, in it.
100%.
And it goes on forever.
It feels, that 2 minutes feels like 2 hours. Yeah. And then you come off and you're like, was that it? That went so fast.
Yeah.
But that time is so, it's warped.
Yeah,
when you're in the moment.
Oh, great stuff. So you started your fighting career where you're still at now, which is with Blue Blood. You've won all your stuff. How old are you at the minute? Now, yeah.
25.
So you're 25.
Yeah.
Okay, nice age.
Yeah.
So you're still young, and you've got a career ahead of you. Yeah. You're doing boxing, you said now. So what's happening with the kickboxing? Are you temporarily taking a break, or are you looking at kind of perhaps changing lanes a little bit and going down here to be a pro fighter?
Yeah. So I think when I got into kickboxing, for me, the WAKO World title for a senior was the goal. That was my number one. Not as a junior, I will be honest. Wasn't because the way I look, and I don't recommend this when I do speak to a lot of the young ones, I don't recommend this attitude. I don't. But this is how I didn't really care about the juniors because, you don't see a lot of greats bang on about junior titles. No. And that might be a bit disputable. But for me, that was just my attitude. I didn't see Michael Phelps, Mayweather bang on about what they won as a junior. And so that was my thing, was the senior, you could only one person from each country, no one had won it in the division I'd won it in before. So I'm the only guy from GB to ever win it in that continuous category. Two people before me had ever won a senior world. 3 people before me had ever won it in continuous from Britain. Will, Darren, and then Stuart Lawson, obviously the legend.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
Legend, love him.
I love his sweeps.
Yeah, I know. I hate to be swept by him.
I know, yeah.
But so for me, it was that making history in the seniors, and so I did that. And like I said, the way that I did it too. felt like a really good sort of. I felt very at peace with myself of fulfilling what I wanted to fulfill in the sport, and so I left Blue Blood and I left Tech about August.
You're not there anymore now?
No, so I don't train there anymore. No,
right.
So now I purely do the boxing. So I left there last August. So now I purely do boxing.
How often?
I'll be every day.
Every day.
Every day.
You're doing the same mindset all over
every
it.
day. You know, I might have the 1 or 2 days off depending, because I'm trying to also run work and business and things like this. I'm trying to build that side of things too. But yeah, you've got to be even more. From what I've experienced, you've got to be even more in, because
why?
Although if a boxer tried to come to kickboxing, they would also lose.
Yeah, that's too much of it.
But vice versa.
Change, yeah.
So I've got a massive think about this a lot. Obviously, I've got a very strong opinion that WAKO kickboxing is the best transferable combat sport. So
to go to any of them from base
to any sport, combat sport, WAKO kickboxing is the best. Michael, Shannon Ryan in boxing, Giorgio Vasoli in boxing. You've got obviously Damon in taekwondo. If you look at where everyone's gone, the base from kickboxing is massive. Raymond Daniels, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of ahead there because of the amount of skill that I've been able to take with me, but the pool is so much bigger. So the talent pool in boxing is because the reward's greater, right?
Yeah.
So because the reward's greater, you've got so many more top class athletes across the board in Britain, whereas you don't have as many in kickboxing, just because way more people.
There's not that many adults that are that good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids, isn't there? I was saying this the other day.
Yeah.
In boxing, is the other way around. There's a load of adults that have shit out as well.
Loads. So, it's almost a catch-up game. And again, in boxing, even in kickboxing, you can, like we said, play the game a bit more. In boxing, if you're not fitter, faster, like if you're not already
totally exposed in that,
exposed. Yeah, like especially if you're not fit. If you're not fit, you are getting found out instantly, and someone is going to take you into those deep waters, and you're going to get exposed. But yeah, I've made the transition to boxing now, and I am loving it. I'm really loving it. It's really refreshing.
I suppose it's a little change, isn't it? So like, is it reignite your passion again?
Yeah, it was never. The kickboxing it was like a first love.
Yeah.
So like, I'll always, I still do seminars for kickboxing. I'll still come to, obviously they just had the British Nationals at Harvey Haddon. I went down to have a look, support Will's launched his own club now. So I went to help coach some of his guys. So I'll always love kickboxing. And further down the line, if it gets into the Olympics and bigger pathways open up, then I've always said,
like Total Combat.
Like I've been trying to get recruited. By you and Andy. Yeah. So I've not ever said that door's completely shut, because like I said, I love kickboxing. It's a very special place, and it is a very special community too. So that door is always open. But for now, my sights and focus are purely on boxing.
Yeah, you've got to be single-minded, haven't you, in your approach to something?
Yeah.
If you're doing too many things, you're going to get...
Exactly. But I'm enjoying that journey, and it's a refreshing switch up, and one that it's a big challenge that I'm really looking forward to taking on.
I think boxing is probably the most physically demanding sport out of all the combat sports.
Yes.
Even more, I know MMA, there's more stuff that you have to be an amazing athlete, don't get me wrong, and I'm not taking anything away from anyone. But like MMA, you have to be a tremendous athlete. You have to train 2 or 3 times a day if you want to be pro, because there's so much to learn.
Literally,
so many different ways.
100%.
But if you think about it, like the gloves are smaller, so knockouts would happen quicker with punches. And then there's also other elements. There's standing clinches, and then you go to the ground. So you're not constantly getting bam, bam, bam,
exactly.
bam, bam.
I think
with boxing, it's just non-stop, isn't it?
Relentless. Yeah. And so Demetrius Johnson actually said this. So I'm quoting one of the goats of MMA before people come after me.
Yeah.
And he's like, MMA is one of the easiest sports to be a world champion in, because it's stylistically, if you've got a striker versus a wrestler, a wrestler could take them down, choke them out. Stylistically, it can expose you a lot easier.
There's more variables of different approaches and ways of getting to the top of the mountain.
If you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you're against a striker, if that striker's going to outclass you unless you get it to the ground.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about MMA, but that's what Demetrius Johnson said, and I'll take his word for it. But that was a big thing as well when I was considering, I'm ready to move from kickboxing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I thought about MMA, but a big thing is passion. I don't have really a passion towards MMA like I do. Like on boxing, I grew up watching all the documentaries.
So you really like boxing?
I grew up watching Mayweather on HBO. All those things. That was childhood. And so that passion for boxing's there. And for going into MMA, it would really be for all the wrong reasons, you know, like fame and stuff like this, like just trying to get a big profile and stuff like that. Whereas boxing, I love boxing. And then again, like I asked some guys who have transitioned from kickboxing to MMA, I was like, how long did it take you to start learning the ground game? Like 2-3 years. You know, I'm 20.
Even longer.
20, yeah, I mean, exactly. Michael, yeah. Like,
took 10 years to get to Bellator, and Mike's a really good grappler as well. Yeah. He's a lot better than people don't realise because he plays to his strengths all the time.
Exactly, as you
would.
So
just because he can, he's even better at striking, don't get me wrong. Like, no one can beat him at striking. He's probably the best, most unorthodox striker in the UFC.
Yeah, you're not going to find many strikers better than Michael.
But but the grappling side of stuff, it's took him really like, 10 years,
3 years minimum to learn these things.
To get a base level, really. That's like blue belt level, I'd have thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
To get like to black belt level, he's 10 years. Is it if you're fast?
Yeah.
Like and that is like mastery at that stage, isn't it? I think you're as good as anyone could be within that time.
I think so
if
too.
you were committed to doing it. And that's the way Mike is with his mindset. He's just not going to. If he's going to do something, he has to be the best at that as well.
Exactly.
So, so that's a big readjustment.
It's a lot of time to justify spending, learning all that stuff, and you're still not going to be at that sort of top percent at it. So that was definitely one of the big considerations too. Was I don't really have that desire to learn ground games and things like this. Not when I could be already have a base of boxing, and I can double my efforts in there. So
I mean, boxing as well. If you fight a good level boxer, I mean, if you're a kickboxer and you fight a boxer and you're a points fighter or a mat sport, so to say, because like you fight the same way as a points fighter or Olympians guys with your angles and your distance.
Points is massive, huge. Yeah,
so and that helps you develop all that, doesn't it? So if you fight like a boxer and you've got all your tools and you're on a mat, a lot of the time they won't be able to touch you. But if you go into their arena and you just put boxing gloves on and you're in a ring, so you're limited to your movement and the rounds will go on. Yeah. So eventually they're going to start breaking you down, working you out. Yeah. Cause it's more of a marathon in boxing, especially pro, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's more of a marathon.
Amateurs is a full on sprint.
Yeah, that's it. So 3 2s, on the toes.
Yeah, so amateurs for me at the elite level is 3 3s.
3 3s,
and that minute makes a massive difference because before, you could I didn't realize this as well, but when I went to when I first transitioned, I was realizing I'll just go to my legs when my arms get tired.
I was like, realize that.
I can't do that anymore. Yeah, I was like, I can't do that. And that extra minute, I go full out on those 2 minutes, and then that last minute hit, and I was like, oh crap, I've got another minute to go. So it makes a massive difference. But yeah, amateur boxing is a sprint, so you got to be so fit.
Yeah.
So I've spent a lot of time getting my fitness and conditioning up. Because for 3 3s, it's literally full guns blazing.
Are you able to go at full tempo for that?
Pretty much now, yeah.
Like you would before.
That's how we train. Yeah. My gym now is Snenton ABC.
Which one, sorry?
So that's Snenton ABC. And I'll go to another gym, which is an all-pro gym called DCT, which is...
Is that quite different though in there?
Slightly, but that gym is Echo Esserman. He's fighting Josh Taylor, main eventing, fighting Josh Taylor in May.
Yeah.
That'd be a great fight. And he's like, it's not... The difference is more just the pacing. A good amateur boxer, look at all the best pros now, Usyk, they've all come from a really high level amateur background. Lomachenko, Usyk, all these top guys are coming from a big amateur background. So amateur really is teaching you all those fundamentals and giving you, again, like the footwork and fitness and things like this. At the pro level, what you're doing is you've got to pace it more. So you've got to pace it. It's a bit more like chess. You've got way more time to figure your opponent out, sit down on your shots more.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, isn't it?
Exactly. That's where, but then you've also got to be able to sprint.
Yeah.
So that's where you need that ability to push the cardio too. It's a marathon with sprints in it.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to put it.
So with you, because coming from your style as a mat sport, which is very fast paced, very dynamic, how was that transition? How are you getting on with their top amateur fighters?
Really well.
Oh yeah,
really well.
Are you quite dominant still? Have you been able to go in straight away and be able to hold your own with the good ones?
Yeah. So it's because of everything, like I said about our sport being the best for transitioning, because of the footwork, the timing, the distance. To be fair, a lot of the things that points fighting gives you, you can go into any arena from a stand-up perspective and you can hold your own 100%. And so for me, I've gone straight into the deep end. Like I had to go, because you have to declare how many fights you have. And so
you've had non-boxing ones, have you?
No, non-boxing. I have to declare how many kickboxing fights I had.
To who?
To England Boxing.
Will they take that into consideration then, will they?
Yes.
Now, they never used to, did they? So it was like a black and white, no boxing.
Yeah,
so 400 kickboxing fights.
And I was like they asked me, I was like, how am I meant to tell you this?
How many is it, do you think?
I figured it out. I was like, it's got to be about 1,000.
Yeah.
And so I tried figuring out based on like amount of fights per year. And then anyway, so I've had so many kickboxing fights and you have to declare that. And then that rounds up to X amount of boxing fights.
They work it out that way, do they?
Yeah. And so then in boxing it works, you've got developments, which is like rookies and intermediates. And then you've got elites, which is advanced. And so it's like 25, I think, or 20 fights, you then have to go to elite. So I was in elite straight away.
Okay, so they took that into consideration, put you straight into elite.
I had to go straight into elite.
Which is fair as well. Otherwise,
I didn't want to waste any time either. No. Like, I didn't want to fight any potatoes. Like, I wanted to go straight in fighting. The top guys expose me. Let me see where I'm really at.
Good mindset, mate.
And so I was already training I'm training at, arguably two of the best gyms as well. For amateur gym, we've got some elite level guys there. There's a guy called Daniel, and he's, he should be on Team England. He's unreal, one of the best guys I've seen. And then at the pro gym, we've got a real top pros, Derek, who's just fought on a matchroom card, main evented it, and then, like I said, Echo. So I went straight into the big dogs in terms of sparring as well, and that's really where I felt I belonged. I was holding my own with these guys and going, I can do it. Like I can make something for myself here. So that confirmed. Don't get me wrong, I got my ass beat a couple of times as well. Like when I did my 8-rounder for the first time, it's like helping Echo prepare for one of he just fought on a Queensby show last year. Tough fight. And I fought 8 rounds with him. Don't get me wrong, that test, I'd never been past 4 rounds. So I did 8 threes with him. And Echo is the hardest hitter I've been in the ring with.
Yeah.
Hardest hit I've been in the ring with. And so don't get me wrong, I have my ass beat a lot when I'm tired.
Because you're not pulling shots either.
Oh no way. Not in sparring. We don't pull.
Is it heavy?
Heavy, yeah. And so we're not pulling. You're there to outside the mat, outside the ring. Great, amazing. Yeah. But like great friends. And then get in the ring, bro. We're there to tear heads off. And so it's like, so it's competitive, but you get a real sense of where you're at. And after doing like 2 8-rounders with him, I was like, it confirmed to me that I can do it at this stage, at this level in boxing. Because Echo's European champion, former British champ.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I can, hold my own with him, it was a confirmation. So I got a lot of confidence from that. And so then it's just about putting in work, being consistent. And so the transition from kickboxing has helped tremendously. Footwork, timing, distance, all those attributes are transferable. And so a lot of the time my coach is like, use your footwork because it's some of the best because of everything you work on at kickboxing level. And in kickboxing, in points, you can't afford to make one mistake.
No, yeah.
That's it. You've been hit with a shot. And so those aspects are really, really vital in boxing as well. Boxing, you make one wrong move, it could be all over. So it's almost those aspects from points and continuous are really, really useful, bringing that into then the boxing scene. I think the problem is where you'll have points fighters who have never been punched in the face.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Then try and change it. So like obviously Elijah's always done both. Michael's always done both. Michael's wasn't just a points fighter who came over to MMA. He did points. He's had I used to watch his fights, continuous fights when I was growing up on YouTube. Like he's had some crazy continuous fights. I think the problem is where points fighters who only do points and try and transition.
It really is. I mean, they've got the potential to be great athletes.
100%.
And I think years ago, where the contact was quite a lot harder and they didn't just stop you straight away. They used to kind of let
I see some old videos it's like rolling over 10 times.
They used to kind of let the combos kind of finish and then they'd like award the points. So you were able to be, as you said earlier, a little bit more expressive and that was more fun then. But now that like they stop it. So if that's the case, I mean, and they stop almost pretty too soon, I think. Stop as soon as someone like initiates something when nothing's happened. And almost feel like they have to give someone a point.
But let it roll a little bit.
They don't become combative fighters. So they have to either train so they can hit and take a shot and give a shot, or do the light contact, or have even just like with our guys, even if they just had 1 or 2 boxing or full contact fights, it changes the whole.
Even in sparring.
Like then they're dangerous then.
And you don't have that, you don't necessarily have that fear of like, if you need to blitz in, like, you don't have that fear. Like when I was growing up, I mean, I always preferred continuous anyway, but you had to do both. Like same if we had a points fighter on our team, you're doing continuous as well. because it's going to make you so much stronger mentally
Yeah.
when you're doing points, because you're used to getting punched in the face. So someone with these gloves trying to flick you in the face, like, you're not worried about that now. You're going to go full.
Exactly.
You're going to go full sprint on that blitz, for example. So
you've arrived then. I mean, when you're not scared, you can fight properly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go, okay, nothing to fear now.
Exactly.
Then you don't get hit. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Go
isn't it?
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like hesitation. You're going for a tackle in football. If you hesitate, you break your
The
leg.
hesitating is where the damage happens.
Yeah.
I always say this all the time. The hesitating is where you're likely to get hurt. If you go for it fully committed, you might take a bang if they get a great counter, for example, but probably likely you're not gonna get hurt from it.
No.
You're just gonna, that's a good shot.
Yeah. So that's where you're at with the boxing then, which is great. So is this going to be your new career path? And when's your first fight then? So you're doing all this groundwork. You're in the elites. You're classed as a 25 and over. Are you going to be put into a amateur competition?
Yeah. So I've had one amateur fight already.
Oh, you have done?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know you'd fought.
Yeah. So that was a couple of weeks back now.
How'd you get on?
So I had a load of problems getting a fight. Because no one wanted to fight me. So
like an unknown entity.
My coaches were telling me, it's quite funny. They would ring someone and be like, "Can he fight Finn?" And he's like, "Let me just have a look at him." "Oh no, we don't want that fight. Sorry."
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this was in amateurs too. There's loads of ducking. So there's loads of
everything.
Yeah,
it's the human. You got the full range of human emotions and everything.
I was talking to Elijah about this. Like in kickboxing, you'd spar people 20 kg heavier than you. You know, you fighting adults at 60. Like there's none of that like cherry picking. Like you're just fighting. Like you're fighting adults. You're fighting. You know, I mean, there's no like, oh, I'm 16 and he's an 80 kg.
Yeah, let him have a fight.
We'll fight. Yeah, like we'll spar.
Probably a bit too relaxed in my opinion. It can be quite dangerous. I think.
Yeah, but that's the mentality. So like coming into this, I was like, oh, really? But so yeah, I ended up I fought the weight class above me. So I fought the weight class above me against the number 3rd ranked in the country, and I debatably lost. I did lose, but everyone who watched thought I won.
Yeah.
You know, the fight finished, I was celebrating. I was celebrating. His head was down, walking towards his corner.
Yeah.
His coach had said I won.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, it was about performance.
It's got to be great. That's a great response to that as well. Yeah. So it is all about.
And in the performance, I was like, oh yeah, I was really happy with how I did.
Good. Because what could you have done better? Yeah. If they'd held your hand up instead of his, if you could have gone, that was a great fight. Then you don't worry about which hands raised because there are mistakes.
We knew inside that we'd done enough to win.
Yeah.
It was on their home show as well. So boxing quite political like that. But I'm using amateurs as a experience and testing ground for the pros. So
you might get more fights now. You've just got one loss.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, there's a positive spin on it. But I love being in the ring. I came out and I was like, I felt alive in there.
Yeah.
Like it was great. No head guards on. Like you're loving it. Like it was.
Yeah, of course. There's no head guards.
Even at amateur level now.
Is that better? Do you feel free and like even sparring in kickboxing all the time?
Yeah.
Really strict,
in sparring you have to. I couldn't spar how I spar kickboxing. Though in kickboxing again, it's a bit too relaxed. You've got top 10 head guards, which they're not thick padded ones. No cheek protectors. Yeah. You're sparring in 10-ounce gloves a lot of the time. Where in boxing, you can't do that.
They safeguard you a lot better in boxing, don't they?
You need 14 to 16-ounce gloves, big padded head guard, and I'm not sparring someone because you're going for it in sparring. Yeah. So yeah, the sparring wise, you're fully protected, but when you're in the ring, you're free. Like that no head guard factor. I loved it.
Little 10 ounces as well, popping them on.
Yeah, I was in 12s at that weight level.
12s, okay.
When I do my weight class, it'll be 10s. But I had to step up a weight level, so we had 12s on. But still, there's no medic times, there's none of this. You're for 3 minutes, no stopping, no playing by the rules.
Yeah.
You're going for it. And so I felt alive in there. Like it was great. So I was really happy with my performance. My coaches were really happy with my performance. So, and again, it was a loss but a win because it sort of put me on the map a bit. Like it turned a lot of heads.
Yeah. Because a lot of people would have thought he gave him a run.
This guy's revered as quite star boy almost in East Mids because it was for the East Mids belt.
Yeah.
So they do it a lot of it in regions like that. So that was for the elite East Mids belt.
Yeah, rematch with him at a later stage. Probably won't want to fight then though.
I was meant to, but I felt ill. But yeah, so it turned a lot of heads, and so We've got things like box cups coming up, which are a lot more similar to kickboxing, where it's like a weekend and it's a fight a day. So it's a tournament.
Brilliant.
So you have a lot of those in the calendar too.
Can't duck you then either, can they?
And no one can duck you. It's an entry. So this was coming into it. We're like, oh, these are going to be great. One of them's on Sky Sports, the Manchester Manchester Box Cup. That's on Sky Sports. We're going to be doing that, and they're usually over a long weekend, fight a day.
Just what you're used to, innit?
It's exactly just what we're used to. So I can't wait for those.
When's your first one of those then?
I think they start May time, and then literally from May to like June, July, they're like non-stop.
You're going to be busy then, are you?
Busy, yeah. Like every other weekend, it's a different part of the country. Literally what we're used to. That's brilliant. Up and down the country, fighting. And so I'm going to be able to rack up a bunch of experience.
Brilliant.
And hopefully, because again, it's a business at the end of the day too, hopefully turn some heads like promotion-wise and looking, because a lot of these pro promoters are looking at the amateurs for upcoming talent. So what I want to be doing is boosting sort of my profile from an amateur perspective. So when I do turn pro, hopefully I'm in a bit of a better position.
Yeah. So what's your plan then? Like your ultimate plan, timeline wise? You're going to smash out a year or two, go pro?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot, and it does depend. Based on the amateurs, because if you win a national title, that opens up potential for England boxing and GB boxing.
Then you might want to do that for a bit first and stay top level amateur.
Yeah, because if you on the GB team, the chances of you getting signed by a big promotion is way more increased.
And Olympics.
And Olympics too. But we'll see, because that's a long time to wait. And for me, pros is where it's at. Like when I went, from a kid watching all these documentaries in my bed, it's the pros. Yeah. It's fighting for those big titles in the pros. It's all that comes with it. So for me, high risk, high reward. The pro game is really where I want to be. I want to be in the big arenas. I want to be on the big main event cards, like Matchroom cards. We just had the big Riyadh one. Yeah. Obviously, better be Evan Bivol too. Like that for me is the dream. Yeah. Like getting to those shows.
And to start off with as a pro, though, I think you're more appealing if you can sell tickets, aren't you? I think that's like, just to start with, because once you've built up a profile and they've got you out there, you get a crowd and you'll get a fan base. And do you think off the bat you'll probably be able to sell to get a lot of people from Nottingham?
I hope so. I hope we can get a lot of kickboxers behind spectator tickets.
Yeah, you see what happens with Michael with the MMA and that, and everyone goes he's so big now and he goes all over the world.
Yeah,
but when he used to come to different places, everyone would be coming down and kind of backing him up as one of their own. So
I've making this transition as well has been learning a lot about the business of boxing, because it is a business as well. Like, it's not just kickboxing. It's obviously, because it's at amateur level, it's really bothered about that from a competitor standpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas for boxing, you've got to make sure the way it's worked. You've got to sell tickets. Like if you want chances to be on these big cards, you have to sell tickets. If you're that sort of sports hall level of pro boxing, if you're not selling tickets, you're not making a profit. Like is that like And so I'm not really bothered about that at an early stage, because you've got to pay your dues. For me, it's about, I hope, obviously using it. I don't want to be dumb. It's about creating a profile, a personal brand, and things like this to be able to sell those tickets. But I really just want to work on the craft. Yeah, and make sure.
You will need to work on that personal brand as well, though. So the craft's great, and you see loads of really good fighters. But if you're too vanilla, right, you've got to be a little bit. Look at Conor McGregor did so well because he was so outgoing and funny and overconfident. But you can't. You need to also be authentic. Yeah. You can't not be who you are. No. So have you thought about how you're going to kind of position your personal brand as well? Because we know you're going to get the craft bit right, but that maybe you get an expert or someone to guide you on that a little bit. But that's going to be important as well to get that bit right.
100%. I think for now, I'm really trying to boot on social media. It's such a powerful tool these days. I'm trying to push a lot of training and a lot of things like that and boost that personal brand from a social media aspect. In terms of on mic and things like this, like I don't have a problem saying how I feel. Yeah. And that sort of bringing my personality to it. Like I did it in kickboxing for years. Loads of people hated my style. I would get so many comments, messages.
Why? Just overview what you think your style is and why that would be a problem, just for people that don't know.
It's very flamboyant. It's a very flamboyant, expressive style, and it's very Marmite. Like some people, loads of people, to be fair, loved it. And I would go back and forth with refs all the time. My very last tournament, which was the Hungarian World Cup last June, that I got illegally minus the point. So like it wasn't in the rules. They just made it up. So they minus me a point for showboating. I went and
Can you do that?
No. I went and checked it. So I went to, at the time, Brian, who was chief referee, and I said, is that an actual rule? Can they legally minus me a point for showboating? And he went, no. So I said, next time, come to me. I was like, okay. But yeah, so they just did, they just minus me a point for showboat. It's not even a real rule. They just didn't like my style.
Yeah.
But that was what, for me, it wasn't about blending in. Winning was not winning if I was just blending in, or being a sheep.
Yeah.
I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to inspire, because I grew up watching, Stuart Lawson, Michael. These guys are showmen.
They're above, they are.
They
very much,
win, but they're showmen. Raymond Downey's won, but he's a showman.
But they're very good as well.
Exactly.
So you've got to be able to own it if you do
both,
that.
Yeah. And so for me, I was so confident I wouldn't lose that it was now about showing the art. Like, who wants to watch? And I would get into disputes, not disrespectfully, but respectfully with referees. I'm like, no, this sport will die. In kickboxing will die if people aren't expressive and they're not showcasing all this skill set we've got. A bit like what you're trying to do with Total Combat.
Yeah.
We're different. Why aren't we doubling down on those differences of the fact that we can try loads of spinning shots? We can try loads of these. So that's what I would do. I would try loads of stuff.
Yeah.
I would watch things in Taekwondo. I would just try it. Literally, I would just try as many random things as possible.
Yeah.
Because I love to express myself. And so that's what I'm trying. It's a bit harder in boxing.
I was just going to say that. There's less opportunities, but you can.
Because
there's a lot of really expressive showboating
Exactly,
fighters.
And so I don't want to come into... I don't want to get knocked out either.
No, you want to...
But I don't want to come into boxing and just be another sheep.
No.
Because you're not going to sell tickets.
No.
You're not going to want to be watched. And also, no one's going to care.
Yeah.
And I fight
even
better.
if you're good, even if you win.
Exactly. And I fight better anyway when I'm being a bit more expressive.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm trying to do something for the sake of it.
No.
I've always fought better when I'm trying
to... Mike. That's what Mike does.
Exactly.
Dances, he gets into there, plays about.
You said, Mike, you can't express yourself. You've got to fight.
He wouldn't be famous to the degree he is.
And he wouldn't even win. He wouldn't have beat the Pirate. He wouldn't have beat Magomed or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
he would have lost if he's trying to fight like everyone else.
Yeah.
Mike's dangerous because he fights totally him, and that's how I was brought up as well.
Yeah.
Fighting completely me, regardless of what a parent might think. I don't care. It's perspective.
Yeah.
One person might look at it and be like, "Oh, he's an arrogant, ignorant guy." I'm like, "Well, one, have you ever had a conversation with me? No, you're judging me off 30-second fight, and two, it's a perspective thing. A kid could look at it and be really inspired, and they might stay in the sport longer. They might want to try things too.
Yeah.
So that was my perspective anyway. When I was watching everyone growing up who was really flamboyant, I wasn't jealous and they're ignorant. I was like, oh my God, I want to be like that. And so that was the effect I wanted to have in the sport when I was still doing it, was that. So yeah.
Brilliant, mate. So I haven't really spoken to you much until this last week.
Yeah, now we've been talking loads.
Yeah, I know you really well, and you know me after my last podcast as well, delving into things. So it's been really good to sit down with you. You're a very well put together young man, by the way.
Thank you.
You really are. You're a great fighter. I've been watching you and watching from the sidelines for years. I've been hearing all about you, and your name just keeps popping up, and you've been really consistent. But you're very clever as well and well put together. And you know exactly what you want to do, and that's dangerous. I mean, that's good. That's powerful. That means it's very likely that you're going to get what you want. So I want to thank you very much for coming down. It's been great speaking with you today, and all the very best for the future, mate.
Thank you, Lee.